Hello, Epiphany. Happy Monday. It's great to see you. I'm glad to be back here in Seattle. It's nice to be away, but it's always good to be home, and I really valued being able to worship with you Sunday, fiber optically from the sanctuary. I wasn't given the sermon, nor was I presiding. Ruth Ann did both those, but I was in the space, and I was praying for you. So I'm glad to be with you. I'll be preaching next Sunday, so I'll be looking for you out there. Certainly I'll be thinking about you when I write my sermon. Because in my heart, my calling is to try to help all of us as a community unveil God's kingdom. We talk a little bit about veiling today. You might not know that, but in chapter 10, the Gospel of John, we are now on verse 7. Last Friday I talked a little bit about how you listen for the Good Shepherd. How you hear the Good Shepherd calling your name, particularly in these times that are so full of shift and unveiling. And I say that because, for some people, this whole idea of institutional racism and police brutality and stuff, this is like, wow, man, where did this come from? And for others, you're like, that is core to what my life has been about, right? In the way in which people treat me simply by the color of my skin. And so this is good, I think, that I hope everybody sees this, and not only do we see it, but we hold it to be our truth universally, whether we're white, certainly African Americans know it as their truth, but this idea of coming up and unveiling, right? And we'll get to the veil in a minute, of what God is hoping for the world. So we got to continue on, right? March on as followers of Jesus. Last week, Jesus said, I am the Good Shepherd, so the leader of people. Today, well, I'll read. I'll let it explain itself. John chapter 10, verse 7. So again, Jesus says to them, the Pharisees, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, and will come in and go out and find pasture. So now Jesus shifts from being in the moment with the people of Israel, leading them to understand by his teaching and preaching about the kingdom of God. And now he makes an arch. He jumps now to being the gate. And so the word here for gate, the other time it might be reflected is in the scene in the temple where the great curtain is hanging in the temple, dividing the high altar from where the people are. And only one person, one time a year, Yom Kippur, the high priest, goes back behind that curtain and washes the altar. It's an imagery we get particularly in the book of Hebrews, where this same kind of imagery is. So Jesus leads in the present, but also Jesus is the gate that opens and invites the new exodus, or the new movement of people from the vestibule outside of the temple, right? Because this gate also sort of is a courtyard or a waiting room. There's a lot of different levels here. So the space outside the temple, and the temple has the curtain, and behind the curtain is the high altar. So Jesus, the gate referred to here is that vestibule, that waiting space in front of the high altar, and then also the curtain, right, that Jesus is, and through his resurrection, the curtain was torn from top, and everybody is invited into the new Exodus. So Jesus says, anybody who talked about this prior to my presence was a thief and a bandit. They were false prophets. They were false messiahs. They weren't leading you. They didn't have the capacity to be the gate that is open through which you come into the kingdom of God. So that's what he's talking about here. It's very cool. So the first part, verses 1 through 6, is how to follow Jesus. He's the good shepherd. To follow somebody else is idolatry. It's to follow a false politician or a false priority in one's life, right? Instead, we follow Jesus. And Jesus is also the way in which we are invited through him, through his resurrection. He becomes the gate, right? So we go up to him. The resurrection tears open the temple, and we see the kingdom of God. That's the high altar is representative of that. We see where God lives. Because through understanding Jesus Christ, we see where God lives, right? We see the kingdom of God. It is right here, right now. We practice it by following the Good Shepherd, and we come to it by going into the vestibule and through the gate by believing the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So Jesus says right here, verse 9 or verse 8, all who come before me are thieves and bandits, right? But the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me, resurrection of Jesus, will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. And the thieves come only to steal and kill and to destroy. I came, this is past people, right, for their own self-aggrandizement. Jesus says, I came that they may have life, you may have life, and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. And the good shepherd lays down his life. Here we go. This is how he becomes the gate. Lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand who is not the shepherd, does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. The hired hand runs away because the hired hand does not care for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life, here we are to the resurrection, the gate, for the sheep. I have other sheep. Now this is the first time in the Gospel of John. Well, let's stop there. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. I love you. I'm glad to see you. You're in my prayers. Peace upon your souls.